Well, we've sort of gone back to an imbalance now. And this notion that charter schools, as Susan said, is this panacea for what ails our public schools, I think is not a true statement. If this were the fix for what, how we could address our achievement gaps, we would have done it already. Educators would have been the one to say, let's start a charter school today. I need a charter school to fix the achievement gap. But that's not how you fix it. We have lots of issues. Budgets are tight now. Most school districts can't even send their students on a field trip without having to ask parents for money, get donations, write a grant. That's the most practical experience. We're seeing what kind of jobs they need, and will that interest you? You know, not all learning is just standing up and listening. We have to engage kids. We have to give them experiences, and we can't do that now. We have a shortage of bus drivers and substitute teachers in this state that is at a crisis tipping point. Teachers are going to school sick. Bus drivers are driving sick because there's no one to do their jobs. That's a huge financial burden because it's costing, there's health care costs, there's transportation costs, which the state doesn't reimburse school districts for 100% of their transportation costs, and they can't keep up with new school buses. There's compounding problems that all go into what makes a great school experience. It's not just one little thing. It's not just a phrase, a charter school, that's going to fix what ails our students. What ails our students is time for learning, time for exercise, time for moving and to experience and to learn the things that they can do well, and to identify where they're not doing well and have the resources and the materials that they need, those practitioners, to accomplish those goals. And so a lot of what just the factual kinds of things have already been said, and I'd much rather engage with you in conversation and answer your questions. But it's hard to talk about what a charter school in Kentucky might look like because there's not been a bill yet, to my knowledge, unless you've seen one. No,
I'm sure we'll see plenty.
I'm sure we'll see plenty. But depending on exactly what's in that bill, it's hard to argue. It's hard to say what might be better. But I think the tools that you have here, and I think if we can just educate you on the right questions to ask and engage in your representatives and ask those questions, because ultimately what lacks in a lot of public charter schools is accountability. And the fact of the matter is that if your public tax dollars are going to a public institution, you should have the right to question what's going on in that institution. You should have a site-based council in that institution. Parents are a part of that site-based council. Parents and teachers and administrators and sometimes students, where they put students on their councils, they all have the right now to do innovative things, to be creative with their budgets. You know, in Jefferson County, Fayette County, there's so many innovative programs and all over the state, really, that, in my personal opinion, I don't feel like charter schools is the answer. I think there's other ways that we can address achievement gaps that are smarter than wasting time with lots of layers of bureaucracies from private corporations. Charter schools most of the time can't afford, like was said, with facilities. Extracurricular activities are almost non-existent because they can't afford them. They don't have the facilities to entertain them. They don't have the extra money to pay people to staff them. And so if those kinds of things are important to students, where do they go back to? The traditional public school. So I just think that there's, it's a complicated issue that, you know, I believe in public schools with all my heart. That's what I do. And I hope that you do too, and I just implore you to ask questions of the people in our government that think that this is something that non-educators should be deciding. Right? There's a handful of people who are educators or retired educators in the legislature. They have a right to say how education should be because they've done it. And that's not to offend anyone that's that's not an educator, but we spend a lot of time trying to learn and educate ourselves on how to educate the children of this nation, and we rarely get asked on how to do it or how to improve it.
That's my entire campaign.
So that's what I'm going to do, and I appreciate the invitation, and I hope we can engage in some more conversation later. So thank you.